While Hollywood may show process servers as shrewd undercover members of the court, wearing bizarre costumes to sneakily serve you divorce papers, we know what it's really like. And it's pretty much exactly like that, once in a while. This is Lafayette Process Servers LLC, a podcast shining a light on the job that takes place in the shadows. What's it really like serving subpoenas, summonses, and notices? Welcome your host, owner and CEO of Lafayette Process Servers LLC, Scott Frank.
Why is it important to have a picture or some type of photo ID of a person when trying to execute a process service? Hello there and welcome back once again to the Lafayette Process Servers LLC podcast. I am your host, Barsher. Today we will be discussing a vital topic. Why is it important to have a picture or some type of photo ID of a person when trying to execute a process service? Identification is a key part of life, and whether you are at home, out visiting friends, or even overseas, having some form of ID on you is important so that you remain safe and secure. Photo ID cards have risen to prominence in the last few years, and now they are an almost necessity wherever you go. So whether you are heading out on the town, heading overseas, or simply driving down to the local shop, make sure that you arm yourself with a photo ID card. Photo ID cards do so much more than just show your name and your picture. They offer other valuable information which has come from a reputable source. Your driver's license, for example, shows your age and your address, and although your address might not be that important, if you are looking to purchase alcohol in a store or in a bar, or even to drive a vehicle, then it's important that you have a driver's license on hand to prove that you are entitled to do this. Photo identification or photo ID is an identity document that includes a photograph of the holder, usually only their face. The most accepted forms of photo ID are those issued by government authorities, such as driver's licenses, identity cards, and passports, but special-purpose photo IDs may be also produced, such as internal security or access control cards. Photo identification may be used for face-to-face authentication of identity of a party who either is personally unknown to the person in authority or because that person does not have access to a file, a directory, a registry, or an information service that contains or that can render a photograph of somebody on account of that person's name and other personal information. You know the question by now, the infamous, "May I see your ID, please?" Chances are, somewhere along the way, you've been asked to show some form of valid identification. Buying a car, a house, cashing a check, making a deposit, withdrawing money from an account, even checking into a hotel. The list of occasions when you and I must show an ID can be endless. And even though we know the reasons why are self-explanatory, let's look a bit closer and discover why showing a valid ID is so important. Well, signature verification comes to mind, first and foremost. And this is protection not only for you, but also for your financial services provider as well. In today's fast-paced age of e-documents and non-face-to-face purchases, it can be challenging for lenders to ward off fraud. Financial institutions collectively spend millions of dollars each year, providing both you and them protection. And those dollars are considered necessary. But, even beyond this age of technology, something as simple as asking for a valid ID has proven to be perhaps one of the most common and most cost-efficient forms of security protection when seeking to prevent unauthorized activity. It's not sure proof, but it works. It can be considered bothersome or even downright offensive to some. But it sure beats the consequences, right? In fact, providing a valid ID has become the law. Section 326 of the USA Patriot Act requires all financial and legal institutions to implement reasonable procedures for verifying the identity of any person who applies for mortgage, a loan, and even equipment financing. And the most prudent way to identify a person is to simply view a valid ID. So, this begs the question: what can be considered a valid ID? There is no set number of ID forms required, but there are very specific ones that are acceptable. Keep in mind, Section 326 simply demands that every financial institution adopts a CIP, customer identification program that is appropriate for its business. At Trilease, we believe in making it easy and less invasive. Because of this, we've implemented a policy of requiring only one form of ID that can verify the identity and signature of the authorized senior. Outlined below are the forms of ID that we accept. Each must be valid and current/non-expired. Driver's license, military ID, state-issued ID, U.S. green card, U.S.-issued passport, Social Security card. In all cases, protection of a customer's identity and privacy is always a commitment to process servers. It's important to know that we are not only required to follow the instructions outlined by Section 326 of the USA Patriot Act, but just as crucial, we are required to also satisfy all obligations demanded of us by you under the Privacy Act of 1974. Identification cards with the basic information listed above help businesses maintain the presence of security within their operations and can act as a deterrent to outsiders. More sophisticated identification cards incorporate features like holographic images, real-time verification, and the ability to scan or integrate with proximity systems. Undoubtedly, credentials that utilize additional security features are going to be harder to replicate and tamper with, but a professionally made ID card with basic information is still beneficial. These benefits include the following. Informs would-be imposters that there is a security plan in place. The badge photo can be quickly compared to the person holding the badge. Establishes restrictions for people with lower security clearance or access. Employees can identify each other quickly. Despite the size and type of operation, imposters do their homework. Imposters study the workings of the business they are targeting. They come in looking like they belong by wearing the same clothing as other employees, and they act as if they know what they are doing. Let's face it, there is no surefire way to prevent security breaches. Mitigate the possibility of a breach by implementing a company-specific identification system and enforce compliance. Having a method in place to easily identify employees and non-employees benefits everyone. So, that concludes our time together here today. Be sure to check out the podcasts on our sister sites, www.Lafayette Process Servers .com and www.Mater Process Servers .com to learn answers to even more of your process serving questions. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week. So, that concludes our time together here today. Be sure to check out the podcasts on our sister sites www.Lafayette Process Servers .com, www.Baton Rouge Process Servers .com and www.Mater Process Servers .com to learn answers to even more of your process serving questions. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week. Barsher with Fiverr is area copywriter. The foregoing article has simply been presented for informational purposes only. She and those at Lafayette Process Servers LLC are not attorneys. If you seek further information about this topic, contact an attorney in your local area.
Thank you for listening to Lafayette Process Servers LLC with CEO and owner Scott Frank. For more information about Scott and the services available, please go to www.lafayette-process-servers.com or call 1-866-237-2853. Until next time, you've been served.